Welcome to the Channel Surfers. I'm John McCabe, co-host, and I'm joined as always by my really good friend and co-host, Jeff Lennon. How you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing fantastic, John. How are you, man?
I'm doing great. Can't complain. Jeff, we decided to create a series that really looks at the field channel manager and what they go through on a day-to-day basis. And we're calling it the Channel Trenches, a view from a channel manager's perspective. And today we have a friend of mine who is in the field and is our first guest in this series, Ross Kemp. How you doing, Ross?
Very good. And gentlemen, thank you very much for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. We're happy you're able to join. So, Ross, why don't you give the audience a little bit of background on yourself, and then we'll kind of go into some questions and talk about being a channel manager.
Right.
If Jeff gets his phone to stop ringing.
So yeah, again, I don't know if I want to admit this, but I've been doing this more than nearly 25 years. It was refreshing to hear Lisa on your podcast yesterday, fellow Brocadian. That was very interesting.
Yeah.
That was my first job in high tech, so that was kind of a interesting one. But again, I started in channel marketing, super young, and then boom, Brocade. Then through a lot of other careers, we worked together at EMC, both of us, Jeff and John and I. At EMC together. I spent a lot of time in storage and finally segued into security, and there's no looking back. I love it. I love it a lot. So I'm enjoying it. I think, John, you and I kind of got in security at the same time. So
yeah.
But I've always been doing channel. I've been working with the same channel partners. Now it's a little bit focused more on security. But yeah, no, loving it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's funny. Like you, me, and Jeff all have kind of the same background, same years of being in the field and sales and channel, and we all worked at EMC. So it's like we're all kind of gonna live through you today, but we've lived that, So
well, we've all been down that similar road, so to speak. Right?
Yeah, for sure. All right, so why don't we get into some questions about everyday life of a channel manager, and my first question is. Number one, you've been in channel, you said, for 25 years. What made you want to go into the channel? Because I got into it by accident. I don't know about Jeff's been doing so many different things, but I kind of got in it by accident, and I really fell in love with it. And I'd like to know from your standpoint, how did you get into it and why?
Yeah. Interesting. I'll go through this quickly. So I have a degree in hotel restaurant management, and I spent the 90s working in restaurants.
Okay.
And then, we started thinking about having kids, and I'm like, maybe I made a career mistake here. I'm going to be working nights and weekends and everything. And I segued into an entry-level job at Brocade in 1999. And it was marketing. It was working for the events team. And then I, quickly got into channel marketing, and that kind of set the tone for everything. For the rest of my career, and then eventually got into channel sales, and I like the channel, right? I mean, it's the indirect sales force, right? And so at the end of the day, what do I spend my day doing? It's building trust between our indirect, our direct sellers, and then our indirect sales team with our partners. So it's all about building relationships, right?
Yeah,
just love that piece of the business. And, I love tech. I'm a geek. So there's that piece of it too. So getting into high tech, I've always loved I've been very fortunate to work with some great companies. And, we talked about EMC the other day, and that was an incredible 3 years of my career.
Yeah. Tell me about it. Yeah, it was amazing company. I mean, geez, Jeff and I would never know each other if it wasn't for EMC, but I had great success there. It was probably the most successful, sales job that I ever had. So, but yeah, that's interesting. I think everybody takes a turn in their careers for the best reason. Family's a really great reason.
No, absolutely. Well,
and then, like my dad said it. My dad said it best. He goes, "Russ, when in Rome, you live in Silicon Valley. You're gonna have to."
Yeah.
So,
the mothership.
That was that was it. So I've been here for a long time, and I've seen Silicon Valley grow. So this has been a great time to be in the channel.
Awesome. No, that's awesome, man. Well, just going back to the EMC thing, it's funny because it really didn't matter how long you were there. I mean, it was such a fast-paced organization to work for, regardless of the division you were in. I mean, it was just everybody was hitting on all cylinders. It was a lot of type A type of people, and So to your point, you had to learn quickly and you had to augment and figure things out on the fly, you know?
And that's where I learned channel is not optional, right?
Hmm.
EMC, there were sectors in there you couldn't go direct. There was a corporate mandate. No,
Yeah.
no, no, no. This amount of business, this head count, that this is mandatory. There's no arguing with that.
Yeah, I agree.
And that is good because I mean that's the thing we all aspire to. I mean the company I'm at right now, we're on this 5-year journey of being in the channel, brand new from
Yeah.
zero to where we are today.
Mm.
And I always go back to that EMC, mantra that was, hey, look, the channel is mandatory, not optional.
Well, you look at companies like Cisco and Microsoft, and they're all about channel. And look at their business. It's they're the biggest companies in tech you can ask for, and channel was a big part of that. And Dell, look at Dell. Dell's going channel, even though I think they've always been channel, but they've recognized how big it is to how you can exponentially grow with a channel sales force behind you.
Yeah, I mean, and then you look at Broadcom, right? And I mean, that's a whole nother topic for
Yeah.
another day. But I mean, there seem to be kind of dissecting the channel, right? And so, undoing all those great VMware programs that VMware created back in the day.
Yeah.
Well, in fact, I think they're owned by, is it KBR or KKR now? I mean, they're actually, there's the VMware portion I thought got sold off, but anyway, just so here's what I wanted to do, if it's okay. I wanted to kind of pivot the conversation, and because of your background, and I thought what was interesting was the pre-conversation we had when John and I were talking with you. We were talking about some different things around events and what are some of the challenges, and how do you handle those challenges today, right? Which is, talking from the trenches, and something that jumped out was, we did an episode around, we just did one on marketing, but we did one around events. So I was hoping we could kind of pivot a little bit. And when we look at the different types of events, you've got national events, you got regional events, and then you got your, and I don't want to steal your thunder, right? Your social events. But what is it that you do? What are the things that you do that you feel need to be done and sometimes aren't being done to help drive a successful event, whether it's national, regional? I mean, what are some of the key factors that you see today that need to happen to ensure that you have a successful event?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And, this sometimes kind of gets glossed over. It's pretty simple too. For our company, in our companies, I think collectively, RSA and Black Hat are our biggest nationals, right?
Yeah.
And they're big. I mean, John, we always laugh about this. Like, it's the last place I want to go, Vegas, but it's the necessary evil. We've got to go. We've got to do it.
Yeah.
So Black Hat, and then San Francisco for RSA is pleasant. It's close to home for me. But the thing is that it's building that plan, right? And I made some notes here. Episode 6, you guys did really hit the nail ahead on what I'm about to talk about, but I'll kind of go a little bit deeper. Is when we're going to go to Black Hat, right? There has to be a plan, right? So I'm telling my direct sellers, and I'm very fortunate at my company that I've got people that support the channel, love the channel, they follow the right direction. I said, look, guys, if we're going to go to Black Hat, let's make some appointments ahead of time. Let's make sure, make the best of our time. Let's have a plan. Let's not just show up and just show up. I mean, if you show up, then you've wasted your time. You didn't have to go to Vegas, right?
Yeah.
And RSA was the same way. It's getting harder and harder to, go book a venue, go find a place for coffee because, places are booking places so it's more complicated, right?
Yeah.
But again, having a plan, saying, hey, I'm going to meet you here. I'm going to meet you before the big event, and start talking about, the customers you want to talk about, and that's what keep telling my team. I say, hey, look, some of the, when our resellers do a great job of owning customer relationships. And, I said, we got to leverage that, right? So let's have a plan before an event. So from a regional standpoint, it really is no different than the local ones, right? And, Optiv and GuidePoint crush it with these monthly events they do. It's really good. They get all their vendors together. But if you just show up, and you're just, having a drink and what have you, then really, what are you going to get out of it? So again, back to Black Hat and RSA, you got to have a plan ahead of time and make some appointments. And hey, what customers do you want to talk about?
Yeah.
Is there something we can bring to a partner? What do we want in return from a partner? Right. And get there early because it's going to be loud. And, and you guys know what I'm the events I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So again, it's building that plan ahead of time. That's the most important thing. Is just you've got to have that plan, and it can be simple, but don't just show up and think that you're going to be the center of attention
Mm-mm.
from one of those resellers. You're not. I
If
mean,
your
everyone's
name brand of your company isn't standing out and people are tripping over themselves to get to you, guess what?
Yeah.
You got to do what you're talking about. What we've preached, right? Now, let me
Yeah.
ask you this, like, because it's not just meetings. There's happy hours and parties you got to go to. Like, how do you stand out when you go to those? How do you and when you stand out, and how do you like differentiate yourself in the networking aspect of it? So when you go
Separate
back,
yourself.
when you go back to the office, are you following up, and are they remembering you, and you're getting meetings out of that?
Yeah, no, it's a great point, and I think I can go even a step back. It's like, like I said, I joked about calling myself the matchmaker and getting, the partner reps to meet our reps, but that's number one, right? Number two is not on me; it's on the, my sellers to go, hey, keep that relationship going. There shouldn't be a long gap of time from that first introduction to, hey, let's a follow up conversation. So I mean, it's that keeping, hey, go meet him for coffee and maybe don't even talk about business. I mean, just get that relationship. So standing out is building trust.
Sure, absolutely.
And again, it works both ways, right? So is standing out is building trust. Standing out is following up. Standing out is, not forgetting you after Ross made an introduction 2 months ago, right?
Capturing that
So,
mind share. Yeah. There's a guy who I'm going to mention his name because he's a good man, and I'd love to help him. But his name is Brian Grabowski, and he's worked for different companies. And do you know him, Jeff? You might know him because he's just like such a character, right? But I've seen him at Black Hats and RSAs and like at these parties, and like he is, he owns the room. And when you talk about his company, people are like, oh yeah, Brian, because they remember him, right? And that's what I'm not that much of a personality at those parties, but I try to get to know and build that trust and get the meetings. But whereas Brian is just like so memorable, people automatically are like, oh yeah, Brian, I remember him. I'm going to call him. Let's set up a meeting. And I just think that's like one aspect of it. And my approach is a little different.
And to your point, we talked about this the other day. It's like all these reseller reps they have tons of people hitting them up every day, right?
Right.
How do you set yourself apart from, and we're kind of unique. We're in a unique space, right? But we've got to stay front and center, and like I said, it's building trust.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
I'll bring it back to the EMC thing. So if you recall, when you first got hired, you went through your sales training. So you went out and you had to do that week sales training. If you go back, the thing that jumped out at me, which blew my socks off, is you're going through the training and they talk about all the stuff and the technology, but the real takeaway was be memorable, right? And something we've talked about, people aren't always going to remember what you said or how you said it. They're going to remember how you made them feel. And being memorable, if you can make people feel, and that's how they're going to remember you, right? So this, talking about Grabowski or even other people, they're able to go into a room and they carry a presence, right? To your point. And then you follow up and they're like, and they make that connection. But there's everything you said, but there is that part about being memorable. Absolutely. I think it's overlooked.
Yeah. Nope. 100% agree.
Yeah. So I guess let's talk about our podcast on events really talked a little bit at the ROI more in around the aspect of your follow up and the meetings and the opportunities you can create out of it. How do you measure ROI at Black Duck from getting together at these parties and these events that happen at the conferences?
Oh, 100%. So, I mean, a lot of it, the ROI here is those meetings, right? And it's manning. Like I said, I'm very fortunate. I've got some great direct sellers. I've got some great senior management that are 100% the channel. And Black Hat was a good example, right? And we had these meetings. We actually advanced deals, right? We actually moved deals along. We found new opportunities, and it was basically I was very fortunate because we have a lot of people from Black Duck at Black Hat.
Mm-hmm.
And, and now, by the way, all the follow-ups happening now, right? I mean, that was just one more step in the journey to move and advance some deals, and also just a lot of exposure for Black Duck at Black Hat, and, meeting with partners, and, all my executives agreeing to have meetings with executives from our OEM partners that we work with. So that was huge, right?
Mm-hmm.
So imagine our executives and our OEM executives talking, saying, "Oh my God, look, we're moving things through. We're advancing opportunities. We're finding new opportunities." So I think the ROI from Black Hat is happening now.
Jeff, one of the things, Ross and I kind of reconnected this earlier this year at a partner's sales kickoff. We happened to be next to each other at the vendor showcase, right? And
Really?
Ross, I want to talk specifically about something like that. It's a little bit of a different event. Going to a partner
smaller events.
Yeah, more focus, more tension. You have to have a table at one of those. You can't just show up and walk the room. They don't really like that. But what do you take away from an event like that? Because for me, we actually, I think, generated 6 opportunities out of that event. Like, how do you measure success with an event like a sales kickoff where you're doing the vendor showcase?
Yeah. So this is something I'm very passionate about, and I'm glad you brought it up. So interesting. So we did 3 kickoffs in 2025,
mm-hmm.
and we did the base minimum on every single one. Just got a booth, and we got nothing out of it. I mean, you succeeded. That's great. That's fantastic. But what I was preaching from the beginning was, please, can we just up level, make an investment in our partners, do a presentation, have them be a call to action. And, we chose not to do it. We chose to do just a bunch of base minimums versus invest in one. And unfortunately now, but the good news, we're in planning for next year, and, we're going to make bigger investments. But yeah, I mean, just showing up, the base minimum, I guess if you, let me put it this way: if you don't show up, it sends a message. So you've got to do that. But if you're going to show up, make an investment, get a speaking engagement, or do the thing like the cruise, the ship thing where you're getting more FaceTime with people.
Yeah.
But I mean, by the time that reception starts, everyone's, got a couple of drinks in them, and they're not remembering the stuff the next day. So
that's why you bring contracts, Ross. That's why you bring the contracts right on the ship. You get them right. You get them signing stuff, and you're
have your DocuSign ready.
Well, yeah. So John, I don't know if I answered that the way you wanted to.
No, that's perfect.
I just think we've got to make investments in our partners, and we'll get a lot.
I think there's a couple partners that in the earlier years doing their sales kickoff was so affordable and intimate, and you got a lot out of it. And as it's grown, it's gotten very expensive, and you don't have the intimacy, and there's like 900 vendors, and I find those to be really difficult for a small company to have a $25,000 price tag on a low level sponsorship. It's tough, And Jeff, I know you and I talked about this. What do you feel about stuff like that? Jeff?
Jeff?
Oh, wow. I thought you were asking Ross. I'm sitting there like,
because you and I talk about, like, I know Ross and I have talked about, and we, it was kind of a conversation we had in earlier, but like, what do you think of these ridiculous price tags to sponsor?
Well, I while you were talking, I was waiting for Ross to answer, but the thing that popped in my head, John, is I always go to movies, right? It's The Greatest Showman, right? It's just to me, they have gotten out of hand, and I get it. You want to go big, and you want to bring in vendors, and you mentioned Optiv. We've talked about Optiv, right, Ross? And I used to really give them accolades because they came out with this 11 by 17 sheet of paper, which had every vendor by every section, and of everything that they work with, which is great, but it's also overwhelming. And I think to your point, John, that's kind of where the shows have gotten to, right? And again, to try to work a room like that, super difficult. It's bad enough you're going to a national event where you've got your 10 by 10 and there's people with 80 by 80 booths, right? And you got to compete with all that. So I just think, it's harder, but it doesn't take away the tactics that Ross mentioned, right? You still have to plan, get in front of people, have your targets, right? Have your, if you're going to go do a sales kickoff, know the regions where you have the most success and you've got the best relationships so that you can lean in. You know, you know what I'm saying? Like, I would figure out, like, okay, I'm going to get to that dinner. Like, if there's a sales kickoff, I want to get with that sales team that's in my region. And if I can be a sponsor of their, like, if I can do a subset of something, because that's how you're going to actually get the connections and build the relationship to build the trust.
Yeah.
And my only addition was, if you're going to do the bare minimum, make sure you do something to draw traffic to the booth. Because that was another thing. I did this, can't remember, it was like a whiskey giveaway, and it was really popular, because it was a sought after whiskey pig. I'm not a big whiskey guy, but the whistle pig, we had it at the table. John, you were there.
Yeah.
You were right next to us. We were doing that, and that worked. Yeah. So, I mean, you just got to get creative and think outside the box, and just if you're going to do the bare minimum, make sure you can get people by the booth. But I would rather make a bigger investment and get a call to action.
So I'll pivot to so kind of moving from the specialty, the national specialty events. I'm going to touch on something that's kind of near and dear to John and my heart. We have dubbed them. We've got a nickname for them, and I know you've got a better name for it, but I still like ours. But how do you handle these happy hours, these chug and hug events where and it, again, you still have to plan. You mentioned in the beginning, but we've talked about it, and I. Just a quick story, no names. We were actually doing a happy hour with one of the vendors that you mentioned, and the channel person went and a salesperson went, and the thing that blew me away was the salesperson came back to me and he goes, I know blah blah, so and so is great guy, great person, blah blah blah, but he just sat at the high top the entire time and waiting for people to come talk to him, and it was very disheartening to hear that. And it's kind of one of those, well, now I got to have the conversation, but then got feedback from the vendor who said, yeah, it just seemed like that, your channel person was like, hey, you come to me, you come to me and we'll talk, and instead of working the room, so to speak. But I wanted to get your thoughts, and I'm sorry for that long diatribe, but what do you do, and how do you approach them, and to kind of make them different and unique, and also meaningful, and and hopefully drive some return on investment, so to speak?
Yeah, no, great question. So it all circles around before and after the event, right? So I'm very fortunate. I've got sellers in the NFL cities that I coverage. So think about Pac Northwest, Denver, Bay Area, Southern California. So I have, it's not just Ross. It's Ross and a partner in crime that's going to be doing these. And sometimes I don't even go because I've got great people that support me and they can do these happy hours on their own. But I always say, go early and before the music and the loud and everyone starts drinking. And then, by the way, try to pull, and I've been successful in Denver. I've done this where I get like executive leadership at the reseller. Hey, let's have dinner afterwards. Let's just have dinner.
That's a great idea.
Slow down. So that has been very successful. But it's not about the happy hour. It's about before and after. And if you're gonna, do these networking, we started calling them networking events because we don't want to call them happy hours. Draw too much attention.
Chug and hug.
Expensive. Yeah, exactly right.
That's our thing.
But yes, interesting. So yeah, to answer your question, before, after, ideally, laser focus, target the people you need to get in front of. And schedule a follow-up coffee and breakfast or something like that.
So Jeff, that's why I love having Ross on, who's in the trenches, and this is the point of this whole series. That is something that if you're new to the channel and you're listening to the show, you're like, oh, that's a great idea. Bring the executives out for dinner afterwards, because you build that trust, that rapport, right? And it helps everything going forward, because they're like, yeah, Ross was a great guy. We had dinner, and then I had coffee with him the next morning, and like they remember that stuff. And mind share, we talk about this, like capturing that mind share. That's a great way to do it.
Absolutely.
And again, I keep saying how lucky I am to have my support team. But that meeting in Denver, I was flanked by my senior leadership. It's not just Ross doing the dinner. It's being me, and supporting myself with all my my management and sales and what have you. So yes, they appreciate that when you're bringing out people to meet them live.
So Ross, do you have a story or something that may have happened where you in one of these events that actually, through the meeting, through the conversation, like it turned into an opportunity? I mean, just as an anecdote.
Yeah, no. Yes, I can give you a good example. I've got a seller that covers the Pac Northwest out of Denver, and we got got him connected and with her, and and we sat. They didn't know each other from Adam, and they just started talking about opportunities, and boom, one thing leads to another. They're talking about, oh, wait a second, I need some help here. Oh, I need some help here. Oh, wait a second, there's an opportunity, and
Yep.
the next thing we know, the deal's closed, and it was just the perfect storm of that. So, it just sometimes people think that resellers are going to bring us opportunities, and that happens eventually, but you've got to build that trust. You've got to prime I hate this prime the pump thing, but it's all about getting, it's getting this. And when I say this, I mean it both ways. It's the say to do ratio.
Yep.
How do we get the say to do ratio to work higher on both sides? If we're going to say something, we got to do it.
Yeah.
If a reseller is going to say it, we need to build a relationship and build some trust to make sure they do it. Right.
It's funny when that happens, everybody says, oh man, Ross, you were just lucky. And there's a saying, which I eventually tracked it back to a gentleman named Seneca, Stoicism, but luck is preparation meeting opportunity. And you have to be prepared to meet that opportunity. And when it happens, people think you're lucky, right? Or you're an overnight success. But it is about putting in the work and putting in the time and doing all those things so that when the opportunity presents itself, you can execute on it. So
I don't think sales is luck at all. Sales is hard work. I think getting to the results that we get when a deal closes, it's not luck. It's doing all the little things to get there. And I think people assume you win because you're lucky, but it's hard.
But again, luck is two things: preparation and opportunity. Right. Yeah. So be prepared. And actually, I saw a talk with there was a couple different speakers, and as they were talking about it, they all talked about the undertone of all the conversations was preparation, right? Just like in the sports, right? Everybody's doing spring training and they're getting ready, or they're, you've got to go through and do those things so that you're prepared, so that when the season starts, that you can start executing, right? You don't just get out there and start swinging a bat or throwing touchdowns, so to speak. So I agree with you, but how I've overcome that is the definition. So,
yeah.
So
and there's that.
Okay. Go ahead. Sorry. No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say there's a balance there, because some of our direct sellers, have control of the account. Maybe they don't want to necessarily let someone else in, and that's when things. Mistake. So there's lots of different factors, but again, it's building trust.
They're not seeing the forest of the trees. They don't know letting someone into that one account can lead to multiple deals that the partner brings to you and the relationship you build. But I mean, we see that all the time. Hey, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about AI in the channel. That's a subject Jeff and I are really near and dear. We're dissecting it and really, intrigued by it. Do you currently use any AI tools in, the work that you do?
Perfect timing. Had a very nice call with the CEO of Chris Messina with Cork.ai. And we're going to get a demo on Thursday, tomorrow, with my manager, my leader of North America.
Oh, wow.
And again, it's a very cool tool. I highly recommend you check it out. I would love to introduce you to Chris.
Yeah.
It's all about AI, right? And I think this is where things are going to change, right? All the little things like, our partners, right? How well are they working with us, right? How can we reward them? How can we, see what they brought to us, what we brought to them? It's all about dashboards and data analytics. So I think lots of things are going to change. Sales and marketing automation, at a street level, a direct sales rep for, our company could go to ChatGPT and say, hey, look, how do I explain application security to my new reseller partner that doesn't even know how to spell application security? There you go. There you built your own marketing slide. So I think AI is going to be a game changer, and it's not one of these things where it's not going to take my job. I mean, we talked about that example right before we got on here. AI is wrong all the time. I mean, it makes mistakes. We got to double check the work. But so I made two little notes here. Sales and marketing, automation, AI, game changer. Going to change things. And companies like Cork.ai are new PRM plugins for Salesforce, Clarity, Tableau, right? Just think about that. You're a channel leader and you want to go to your CRO and say, hey, look, this is what we did with GuidePoint. This is what we did with Optiv. This is what we've done with all these different partners. that's huge. And like I said, we've talked about Nova Coast, love Nova Coast, right? And just to get a few just to show the CRO, well, hey, look, this is where we're succeeding with Nova Coast. This is where we're succeeding with Optum and GuidePoint.
Yeah. Well, we interviewed the CEO of Intro, which is a new PRM. They just introduced this thing called, an AI bot that basically helps the partner rep ask questions about my company. So like, how do I sell, this technology? And if we load it with the right information, it'll give them all the information they need at their fingertips to sell us. Right. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just come back to your point, Ross, I shared this previously, my opinion of AI, which was very open based. I mean, I've been playing around with chat for almost 2 years and other things and different AI apps that were out there. But even my opinion has evolved over the last 6 months. But I do agree with you. It is a force multiplier. But if you're not using or leveraging or understanding it, you may lose your job because you're not going to have the capability or the wherewithal to figure it out. I just went through a session for Chat 5 and the whole agent approach. It's unbelievable. Like, and it's as I told John, it's like a snowball going down a hill. It's just getting faster. But I see the value in that it's adding to different things. So you just mentioned Cork, but from a broader perspective, how would you say that it's affecting your go-to-market and even the events? We can go back and circle and tie it back to events, but are you seeing how is it helping you be better to do what you do, whether it's go-to-market or even doing things around the events?
Great question, right? So I think a lot of it is, just the research component of, I'll give you a really good example. One of my partners said, "Hey, look, Ross, I get it. You guys are the best. Tell me how you guys differentiate from, your competitors." And he rattled off 3 competitors. So honestly, I went in, did my thing, and it came back very complimentary to us. It was good. It was fair, and I, made a slide and I used it. So I mean, before ChatGPT, how I would have, again, I got to be careful here, but yes, I want to leverage marketing, and they're helpful and they're awesome, but sometimes we just need something quick, down and dirty, and ChatGPT is producing that, but we have to double check and make sure it's right.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, I think AI just can't be ignored, and the uses of it are just mind blowing.
Don't be afraid of it either. That's the other thing. I think people get a little bit worried. Don't be afraid of it. I mean, just don't overdo it.
So
I think
sorry,
go
John.
ahead,
Man.
No, go ahead.
No, you go. No, you go. No, you go. So, and I know we're getting to the top here, or at least the bottom of the hour, so to speak. But so you've been doing this a long time. We all have, right? So a big takeaway for me is, how do you, and John mentioned it, right? Helping others get better, understand things. What advice, what 2 or 3 things would you give to a new up and coming channel manager, whether they're new to channel or maybe they're an inside cam that's trying to, become, a full, channel manager, so to speak? What are some things that you would recommend?
Yeah,
that's great. Great question. So I'm very lucky to live in Silicon Valley. So I could spend Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at a different reseller, here in the Bay Area. That's me. I'm very fortunate, right? That's my advice is if you're in an NFL city, find out where the offices are, find out the day that they have a vendor day where all the vendors come in.
Great.
Again, you're fighting for their attention, but you've got all the executives in there. Find out how you can bring them lunch. They love that because it's free lunch for everyone. So, and coffee, I don't need any donuts, but I don't mind buying donuts. And it sounds really old school, but that's still huge. I mean, maybe, John's a big boba tea fan, maybe bring boba tea for everyone. Right. So, but
no, it's old school, but it works,
Yeah, no. Just spend time in there, and then it's building trust, right? How can you get your direct sales force to build trust with an indirect sales force, and find a better together story, because a partner rep is going to really perk their ears up when they think of, wait a second, oh wait, I can sell you and this other company. Wait, that's a better paycheck, right?
Yeah.
So better together stories, spend time in the office, do the lunches, and just over communicate and show up.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think lunch and donuts and coffee and everything you're talking about and being in the office is absolutely the greatest advice you can give. Jeff and I used to go to the Presidio office in New York all the time. The two of us were known because we'd always sit right next to the VP's office, and we were always chatting with him, going in, sitting, and chewing the fat. And
sadly, he was a Jets fan. Just
yeah, that's right. But we got to know a lot of their sales executives that way, and I was a national partner manager supporting them, and Jeff was regional, and he and I both combined forces. Jeff wasn't intimidated, like, oh, John's here we worked together, and we were able to, manage that. But going in, and I try to tell sales reps this all the time, go in and show face at a partner office. It's the best way to get your mind share.
And I'd be remiss not to mention I'm flanked by my amazing SE, right? So, I do my thing, and then my SE is setting up enablement sessions, and I sign him up for stuff. And I'm like, hey, look, this is my homework assignment, just turned into your homework assignment. You've got to train and enable these 6 SEs where we just did, a bunch of sales reps. So I keep him very busy.
Yeah.
And I'm very lucky because he's awesome.
Agreed. I love the Better Together story because, that's something I'd say Jeff is probably expert on building like an alliance relationship with a vendor. He's able to find the money when it comes to building that Better Together story with two technologies. And if you go to a partner, they love 2 commission checks, right? So building a Better Together story and going to the partners and saying, hey, let's work together, the 3 of us, and let's focus on these customers.
You can't go wrong. It's just a win-win scenario.
Yeah. So look, we're about at our time, but Ross, why don't you talk about your group in the Bay Area that you work with? Because I find that that's another great way to network and build reputation. So talk about that channel group that you work with.
I will do. So it's Bay Area Tech Connect. It's here in Silicon Valley. So selfishly, the way I'm trying to make this work is I want to get my Bay Area sales force, my company, to come to an event and meet multiple resellers. So think about that for a second, because some people are kind of going, wait a second, you're going to bring in, competing. I go, yeah, they're all friends. We all know each other. And so the first one was a huge success. And we had like 4 resellers represented. And it's a lot of people that kind of know each other. We did it here in Campbell, California. And I just kept up to them over email and said, what do you guys think of this? And they're like, this is great. And by the way, can I add people? Can I I go, yeah, go for it. So we're going to do another one on the 27th here in Silicon Valley. It's hard because I kind of travel quite a bit. So it's not like it's a consistent done, but it's averaging once a month. But yeah, it's sellers in the area. Awesome. It's multiple resellers, and it's just a lot of really, really good conversations. And every time we've done one, right? And I can't tell you how many pat on the backs I got or emails or texts saying this was really huge. And by the way, before COVID, I did this all the time. Yeah. So it's like everyone thinks I've invented this. I didn't. We all did this before COVID.
But I love that you're thinking outside the box, and you're looking for ways to build that reputation and that trust, and it's great. Look, if any of your group is listening, hey, reach out to us with questions. If you want to be on the show, we'll talk. But I love that idea that you do that, because that's the way to make yourself better at what you do and grow your business and build a reputation and that trust in the channel.
Yep. No, appreciate it. Yeah. And when you're out west, you can join me for one.
I'd love to. Maybe Jeff and I could do a live podcast from your group one time.
Ooh.
Maybe during RSA next year.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, there you go.
Right, Jeff? Yeah. Do a live session. That'd be fun. So have a question and answer session or something. We'd love to do that,
Yeah, it'd be fun.
No, I love that, man. That's awesome, dude.
All right. So Ross, thank you for being a part of this. I learned a little bit today, and I love that you think outside the box, which is really great, because now I have a couple ideas of things that I could do that'll make my job better. And that's why we do this show. We want to help not just ourselves, but the audience to get better at what they do.
No, and you guys are hitting out of the park. Your podcasts are great. I've got all my little favorites here that I wanted to mention, and I think I mentioned all.
Feel free. We love hearing good stuff about our podcast.
No, episode number 26 was fantastic, and your first one was great. And number 6, the partner events. we went today and dove a little deeper, but that was a really good one. So anybody jumping into the business or anybody that needs a refresher should be listening to all your podcasts.
Yeah. Well, you're going to love
man.
the show that releases next week.
Oh my God.
We did a show where we ranked the top 10 Bee Gees songs that relate to channel sales. So you'll love that one.
Oh, I love it.
And just so you know, I did pay the royalty. So because John wants to sing, I'm just going to put it out there. So
oh God.
I maybe sang for like 9 seconds, so we're under the royalty window.
Oh, no, I had to pay.
No, that's how you do.
It's all
right. Yeah, I don't know how these rules work. I don't know if I broke any ruals today.
I think it's more for YouTube than it is for the podcast. But
yeah, if we're not breaking rules, we're not doing anything. So
yeah,
let's
singing is awful. You wouldn't even tell it was a Bee Gees song. Anyway, but Ross, thank you so much for being part of this, and keep listening and preaching the good word of channel. And we'll hopefully see you very soon. Jeff, can't thank you enough for being the host. You're always it's always great doing this with you, and I enjoy it.
Awesome.
For those of you out there who want to find us, you could find us on any of the podcasting services that are out there: Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and Overcast. And we're the Channel Surfers. Our website is www.channelsurfers.com. If you want to reach out to me or Jeff, I'm John at channelsurfers.com, and Jeff is Jeff at channelsurfers.com. And we would love to hear from you and get your feedback, or, if you have a great topic you want us to do, feel free to reach out. Until the next episode, thank you again, and everybody have a great day.
Thank you.
Awesome, man. Ross, thank you.
Cheers, everybody.
Awesome.